In February of 1808, Napoleon marched his forces into Spain, imprisoned King Ferdinand VII, and installed his brother Joseph as the new Spanish king. The shift in power led to the disintegration of the Spanish Empire, as many refused to recognize the new king as their rightful ruler. Conflict in New Spain began as a civil war regarding crown legitimacy, but morphed into a war for independence, which culminated in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence of the Mexican Empire in 1821. The United States was one of the first foreign powers to recognize Mexico's independence through the Monroe Doctrine, though in actuality, the country's motivation was to assert control over much of Central and South America. The first Mexican republic was established in 1824. However, it only lasted 11 years and was characterized by an ideological conflict between conservatives and liberals, who debated whether Mexico's government should be centralist or federalist. Almost every administration of the First Republic was overthrown by a military coup. The final president of the First Republic, a liberal named Valentin Gómez Farías, was overthrown by his former vice president who had switched to the side of the conservatives. Once in power, the conservatives repealed the Constitution of 1824 and established the centralist republic. However, the political turmoil between conservatives and liberals led to the republic's fall only 11 years later. The new liberal government lasted from 1876 to 1911 and was ruled by the dictator Porfirio Díaz. Díaz focused on economic development throughout his rule and was relatively successful at stabilizing and growing Mexico's economy. Under his rule, Mexico was open to foreign investment and influence. Rail networks expanded, education was secularized, and the government operated with a focus on scientific methods of development, discarding the use of theology and idealism in governance. The pattern of political instability continued through the 1800s and resulted in the emergence of Francisco Madero, who challenged Díaz's leadership and was democratically elected in 1911. However, he was overthrown and assassinated in a military coup in 1913. Armed conflicts had broken out during Madero's election when he was jailed by Díaz and were intensified by his assassination. The Mexican Revolution was primarily a civil war that was ultimately won by the Northern Constitutionalist faction, led by Venustiano Carranza. Carranza implemented a series of reforms to consolidate his power. For example, he established universal male suffrage and promoted secularism, workers' rights, and economic nationalism and land reform. In the 20th century, Mexico's self-sufficiency increased with the development of Green Revolution technology. By hybridizing corn and wheat, Mexico's agricultural production increased exponentially. The ideas and machinery that defined the Green Revolution helped to support Mexico's growing and urbanizing population.